Now welcome to another Let's Talk Some Bad Batch, where we will be looking at some of the comments left on my review over on the other channel, and talking about the latest episode, which is the 4th episode called A Different Approach. But before we get to those comments, we gotta start with your ever so brief review of this episode.
This might not be as brief. At first, I really liked the episode when I watched it this morning. The more I've kind of stewed on it, the more I'm like, I'm not sure I liked the episode, because I feel like they took a long time to do nothing.
Okay.
Because we had to watch Omega do all her hustle stuff, and in the end, what did we do? What Crosshair wanted to do from the beginning. And if they would have done what Crosshair wanted to do from the beginning, Hemlock might not have been able to catch their trail so quickly, because they would have been gone before the shuttle was found.
Well, yeah, because...
they may not have put two and two together to go, well, the people from the shuttle must have stolen the new shuttle, or new ship, or whatever that got stolen.
They probably would have put that together.
They may have, they may not have. It depends.
I thought it was a fine episode. In my review, I said it was kind of a return to formula where go to a planet, problem arises, have a sort of fight at the end, escape planet. Maybe
I was just annoyed because of that cliffhanger type ending where we got to see Crosshair finally see his brothers again, and we don't get to see what kind of reception he's going to get.
Tune in next time. I don't know. I thought it was a decent episode. Like I said, my biggest gripe would be kind of the same thing we've seen before. It's not... You could have shaken up that and done something just a little different with it. Maybe because it is kind of convenient that the ship comes out of hyperspace right by a habitable planet, right?
I also wanted to briefly mention that the more they try and tell me about midichlorians, the more confused I get. Because I feel like it's... I don't know. They mentioned that Omega could accept... Like, her blood could accept a transfer midichlorian count type thing.
Well, they keep calling it M-count transfer.
M-count transfer, meaning... She does not have the Force, doesn't have, quote-unquote, an M count. But her blood can accept it, like she's a universal acceptor.
Well, what I find strange, instead of calling it a midichlorian transfer, which is obviously what the things are, even though they don't want to use that word, which some people are like, well, they'll just M count for convenience. Sure. Part of my problem is we've never actually had explained in either The Mandalorian or this not what midichlorians are.
True.
So they don't really mean anything to the more casual fan who maybe never saw the prequels in the first place.
Very true, yeah.
And then you keep calling it, again, this M-count transfer, which means like you're transferring the count. So is what's happening is, say, this blood has we'll say 10,000, just for the sake of a number. So is the new blood getting 10,000 midichlorians, or does it just like slightly enhance it, or what's going on?
Remember, they said the other ones weren't as receptive. They were getting results, but it wasn't what they were hoping for. Like some of them maybe could accept a bit, but it wasn't like transferring like at a 1-to-1 ratio.
So calling it an M-count transfer doesn't make sense then?
No.
You're just calling it transferring midichlorians.
Well, yeah, but they think they're being scientific and clever.
Well, yeah, I understand using short-term, lingo and all that when the officer you're in the lab or whatever.
Which is what they are, yeah.
Yes. My point is, because people are getting mad at me for even suggesting that they were avoiding the word, my point is we don't know what midichlorians are unless you've seen the prequels and you just know Star Wars, right? So if you're a new fan watching this show, or you're someone who just doesn't remember, whatever it might be, you have no idea what they keep referring to with this M-count thing. Explain it already in the show. It's
almost like we have to try and make all these inferences, which I would rather they just tell us in this case, because it makes me understand things going, okay, maybe you cannot clone Force powers.
Yeah.
You can make a clone of Palpatine, but it won't ever have the Force unless you can adjust the blood so that it can, like Omega's, it can take an M-count transfer. Because remember, she is a clone, so you could make a clone, but somehow tweak it so that it can accept the M-count transfer, and boom, you now have a Force-powered clone because you can just give it a transfusion, and boom, there it goes, powers.
Yeah. Is that why they use the clones in the first place, too? Because they need to know if clones can have this transfer? They need to do a little bit of explaining. If Boba Fett got
a blood transfusion from a Jedi, is he going to be like, using the Force?
I don't know. I feel like they're being very, very vague, and I get that. You want to be mysterious. You want to trickle the information out there, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of people.
Needs to be told.
I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who aren't very familiar with this stuff, who just are like, "What the hell is going on?"
They don't understand why they're looking for Omega, then, because you're just like, "Well, her blood is important, I guess."
They're making the assumption that the people watching this, and it's probably true for the most part, but the people are watching this are very knowledgeable Star Wars fans. You're not really doing a favor for the more, let's check out this show and see what it's all about fan. Anyway. we
Yeah,
should
now
probably-
let's move into the comments.
Yeah, I
here.
know. We've been
It's
rambling.
my fault, sorry.
It's okay.
This is my comment.
This is your
got to
ever
be.
so not so brief review of the
Well,
episode.
sometimes I can talk about stuff.
No, you're free to. I'm sure everybody
All right.
is gonna love to hear you didn't like the show so much.
It's not that I didn't like the show. It's just I
know,
want
I
explanations
know.
when you talk about when you have scientists talking about science. I expect a scientific explanation.
Scientists talking science.
Yes. First comment though is from Ben Costello. I don't get calling this filler. Unlike many episodes in the first 2 seasons where there's just an adventure and maybe one line that is relevant a season later, this directly tied to the last episode and furthered the story, even if not too much.
Yeah. I didn't call it filler in my review. I said it was formulaic.
Right, it follows the formula of the episodes, but it's not filler because it is furthering the story, because we need to know the conversations between, we needed to see that Crosshair is leery about meeting up with his brothers again.
Absolutely, yeah.
That he kept avoiding, we should call for Hunter. Oh, we're here. We should call for Hunter. We should call for Hunter. Let's get ourselves somewhere else. Like he was postponing it, pushing it off.
Well, yeah, he probably.
It kind of enhanced the fact that you really see that he's nervous about coming in contact with them again after all they've been through.
Yes, he should be. He's kind of screwed them over a couple times. So.
Right, and we need to see, the persistence. We need to know that Hemlock is following them. This is an important part of the.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I don't think it was a filler episode. It was a kind of a bridge episode, right? Okay, they escaped. Now they're going to get the reunion. How long do you want to kind of draw that out? What do you want to do with it?
And it's interesting that even a planet in the middle of nowhere seems to have a increased Imperial presence because they are establishing themselves. Even in this far-off planet that doesn't look very important, the Empire is here.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Next comment is from Derek Lopez. When the supposed kids show had a way better and emotional reunion between the characters than Ezra and Sabine's reunion in the Ahsoka show. Also, the animals escaping their containers kind of had some Lost World Jurassic Park vibes.
It did.
It also reminded me a little bit of, the best of the sequel trilogy.
Oh, yeah. You're talking about
when the Fafnir escape.
Yeah, that was exciting. or
Yeah,
something.
they go running through the... No,
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
No, I mean, I sadly agree with this. I thought, as simple as it was, I thought the Omega Hunter reunion and Wrecker as well. I thought it worked really well.
It did.
It was
See, but this is how you know it was a kid show. If it wasn't a kid show, we wouldn't have had the scene with Omega going, shouldn't we just let all the animals out? Instead, they would have just done it when it was appropriate.
sure.
Because an adult would have telescoped that right away. Like, oh, look at all these containers. Look, we're seeing that bot lock something up and he's got a pad. He shows all the little locks.
Sure.
We wouldn't have had to have the character say, we should let them out, because now we know. We know that she's going to find an excuse to let them out and they're going to save the day. So that's the kid show part.
Certainly.
But yeah, the emotional stakes are just much better in this show.
Do you think it hit harder or hit better than the Sabine and Ezra in Ahsoka, I should say?
As long as the next episode gives us the conversation and we don't Dave Filoni our way around
I
it.
think we have a comment about that later on,
Okay.
but yeah. But no, I thought it was good.
Just
I thought
the
it
look.
was subtle and
The
good.
look
And
was good.
I didn't think it was terrible in the Ahsoka series. I think it could have been better. It kind of felt, after all that time, I think part of the problem is that was we're talking so long, real world time and in story time for that reunion, that you just wanted something
We
a
needed
little
that
more.
payoff and they denied it.
Yeah, it didn't feel very. It missed something. I'll give you that. But I don't think it was terrible. I think it would have been awkward to see somebody after 10 years like that, but still needed to do something a little better. All right, let's move on.
Next comment is from Bowen Horn. One thing is for sure, Kevin Kiner knows how to tug on the heartstrings. The music during the reunion scene was beautiful. Yes, it was. They played their congratulatory,
Yeah,
celebratory
they
clone
did.
music, but with that emotional nuance to it that was just chef's kiss. It was perfect.
It was. I think that little note in there that you're talking about is kind of what got me. I'm like, oh, jeez.
Yeah.
There it goes again.
Da, da, da.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes.
they're little that's like the Omega type theme.
It's kinda,
and
it's
But yeah, it's emotion done in the right spots. It's really, because you've heard that theme over and over, but to hear it just placed in
That
there when
way,
when the Omega comes back with her, family, it's a big moment.
yeah. Kevin Kiner always delivers. That
He-
guy needs
he knows
even
what
more
he's doing.
credit than he oftentimes gets. I think.
Next comment from Jerugalo. Nalase made an interesting comment to Hemlock that the false positive result on Omega's blood test was an aberration, like the clone herself. That implies to me that she's suggesting Omega's existence, perhaps specifically her existence as a female, was an unintended occurrence, which I don't believe is true. Hemlock didn't have the evidence to refute either statement, though, which suggests to me he might not know Emiri Carr is a clone. Otherwise, Omega wouldn't be seen as an aberration, at least not uniquely so.
Yeah, so many questions.
It's those questions again.
Yeah.
I feel like he has to know she's a clone because Emiri had no problem telling Omega she was a clone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. But, was that intentional? Did you intentionally, is that what the abnormality was, that she was female? And was Omega just, coming off the line?
She's also a blonde.
Well, then she would probably have the advanced aging. So it seems like she was intentionally made, right? She was intentionally made to be a normal Jango Fett clone, and yet she's female and maybe has something special about her.
Or she's been Nala Se's special project the entire time.
Which is kind of
and
what
she's
I think,
really just underplaying it, saying it's a false positive, Omega's a mistake.
Yeah. Well, she clearly wouldn't be like, I intentionally made her for this reason. No, she's...
Yeah, the fact that she knew right off the bat the moment Omega, you're like, oh, Omega, they got your blood? She knew. She knew the entire time that this blood could possibly maybe have the M count.
She probably
feature.
Tested it before, especially when they started to do this and found out. So that's
she always kept Omega away from the other clones. She kept Omega away from everybody.
Yeah.
The aberration was Omega getting into the hands of Hemlock.
Yeah, and I feel like, again, there's a lot of questions, and hopefully they are good answers.
One other question is, why do they keep testing Omega's blood? Why are they testing all the clone blood over and over?
Yeah, if it doesn't work.
Especially when they already told you that they already ruled out CT, they ruled out Crosshair's blood.
Yeah.
They escaped, they're like, it can't be him. We ruled him out. Well, how did you not rule out anybody else?
That's an excellent point. Why did you rule him out so quickly, but the others you're like, well, keep testing him and over and over again?
Oh, maybe they kept testing the others because... See, that's why, again, I don't understand why test Omega. Because if you're using all of the others to test as your, control, and just taking a little bit of blood from each of them, obviously will keep them all alive. It's good practice. I get it. But why are we testing Omega as mixed in with everybody else's? Because she, being a female clone, is different than the others. Her results would be different.
Yeah, I
don't know. So you wouldn't need to test her 600 times. You've got the other 7 million samples from the other clones, which is what your, baseline is, and you're trying to tweak in order to do your M count transfer.
Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
I think we got one more here.
Last one from MK HUD. I think a huge implication most aren't thinking about, if Omega is an unaltered clone of Jango and her blood can handle a force transfusion, then Jango and Boba could as well, which implies Dooku might have chosen Jango for this particular reason.
It is curious.
It is interesting, but again, Nala Se trying to write her off as an aberration almost means that, to me, that this was intentional, that Nala Se made alterations to her on purpose, or why isn't Omega, if she's an unaltered clone, why is she a girl?
That is an interesting
That's automatically
question.
An altered clone.
Yeah.
Because you've already changed innately some chromosome.
Yeah, or it's something went wrong in the cloning not wrong, I don't want to put it that way, but you know what I'm saying. It didn't go... if you were trying to make a male clone and you made a female, something went wrong is what I'm saying.
Right, because a clone would be identical.
In theory, yes. I'm not a geneticist, but I believe that's how it works.
Geneticist Naboo knows. It is interesting, though, because if the clones, and any implication, because it sounds like they were testing because they were getting increased results, maybe by altering the original formula through lots and lots and lots of tests, that maybe they could actually make some sort of an M count transfusion that would work on the clones.
Yes. Maybe subtly they were, as you're kind of saying here, they were changing the formula the entire time. Because we know, Palpatine, he's been the guy behind it all along. Dooku picked Jango. But if Palpatine was in there from the start, he may have been saying, hey, I want eventually to make a clone army that is force sensitive, so can you Kaminoans kind of do some tampering with the formula along the way, and we can keep testing and see if this works eventually. It's actually genius. If this is a Palpatine plan, you have millions of specimens essentially that you've maybe been slightly altering over the years to see if any of them will work. It's, I just kind of made it up, but that kind of sounds really smart, so maybe that's where they're going with it.
It's hard to say because of the fact that they kept running Omega's test over and over again. It does,
Well, yeah, that part's, that was for tension, right? We know that, but does that make sense why they would do it? I don't know. We'll have to see where this all leads, but I actually think that's a pretty interesting idea, that you would have this massive sample size, a whole clone army essentially, to test if you could alter a specific DNA to accept an M count transfer. I don't know. Now I'm getting too far into geneticist territory.
Dark science, only the Sith know.
Exactly. Well, that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn to take to the comments below and tell us what you thought of this episode of The Bad Batch, and tell us what you think is going on with all these M count transferings and whatever else is going on. Is Omega special? Is she not? What is the deal? Whatever you think, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars. And until next time, thanks for watching.